Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you about today is an example of an A-level personal investigation. So this is based on the AQA specification, and this is based on the personal study or component one, as it's sometimes called. And this makes up 60% of your final grade. Now, bearing in mind that this is the same for GCSE, the main difference is obviously about the quality of work and the standard that would be expected for A level. But in terms of the assessment objectives and the AOs and the evidence that you are expected to provide, that is the same for obviously GCSE. So very briefly, before I go ahead, you've got 4 AOs. AO1 is all about developing ideas and developing ideas based around the study of other practitioners. AO2 is about exploring and selecting appropriate techniques and processes to record and obviously review and refine your ideas. AO3 is all about your ability to record your ideas relevant to your intentions. So again, this is about your project, moving it forward, taking a step back, and obviously saying, right, how am I going to obviously start to improve and take my idea forward? And then AO4 is about the final outcome. So this is an architectural based project through the study of architecture, and I'm going to go through that now. So it starts off with looking at modernism, as modernism is a key movement in terms of architecture, where the student has explored obviously different forms and different examples of architectural buildings, and then they have talked about that in some detail. Once she's obviously looked at brutalism, she's then explored brutalism in terms of different shapes and different ideas. So these are her initial, starting points of sort of brutalist techniques. There are some geometric patterns here, and there's also some more of a fluid. But again, you can see here the way that the ideas have been developed in more of a brutalist basis. So again, this process began after my brutalist research on the previous plays. I explored different possibilities by using different colours and mediums to allow a diversity of results. So she then takes her ideas and then she moves on to modelling using a bit of CAD and some wooden-based structures. So again, we're showing a variety of materials and also a variety of techniques. And she's obviously moving her project forward into more 3D. She then explores angular. So again, she's looked at brutalism and then she's looking at angular, looking at different angular architects and the ways that they obviously design and create ideas. So this is all about angular. As I'm moving these flaps open, they're actually got information on there. So she's explored angular and then she goes into some angular techniques. So you'll see again, starting off with some type of 2D and then moving on to 3D with some of these models exploring angular forms, focusing on width, creating an energetic effect. So again, she's talked about windows, gradients, possible balcony platform. So already she's starting to look at ideas, and you can see where all of these ideas are coming from these initial starting points. And then she looks at curvilinear. So again, she's exploring curvilinear and she's looking at some initial curvilinear forms in terms of her project and how can she move within a sort of curvilinear element. So once she's explored the sort of early areas of architecture, she then says, right, I'm going to design some type of dwelling to show my understanding of the different types of architecture, where she starts to do some innovations based around brutalist angular fluid. And she starts to come up with some ideas, some initial models, again, showing her understanding of those different shapes in terms of different dwellings. And again, a variety of angular, modernist and obviously curvilinear forms. And then she comes up with a floor plan to show, right, this is what my dwelling would look like, some different elements of ideas, the size of her building and her shapes and her forms. And then she does some further research to what a traditional dwelling might look like. And then further ideas in CAD are explored, showing her model and her idea. And then moving on to some more, some CAD and some more of some more sort of model-based laser cut outcomes. So this might be one of her outcomes, showing her understanding of brutalist modernist. Now that's really important because it's saying, right, I've identified my project as architecture. I'm starting to get an idea about architecture, and this is my understanding at this point. And this would probably last between up from February up until the summer term. And then obviously after the summer term, where she's had time to reflect on her project, she then starts to think about what she really wants to further study in her project. And she talks about biomimicry and how products can be inspired and adapted by nature. So now she's saying, right, this is my understanding of architecture. I now want to base my final outcome on nature and biomimicry. So she starts off with a site plan, sort of getting that project started, and then she does some further research into some other examples of different architecture that's been inspired by nature and biomimicry. And this is where these ideas start to come into her personal study. Again, it's not just about looking at examples of past and present design in terms of architecture, but you could look at just past and present types of design. And then again, she then obviously starts to look at some design ideas. I'm just going to make that a bit easier to see. So again, looking at some design ideas here to help her to start to develop shape and form. So she's got some ideas. These are all sort of inspired by these patterns. And then we start getting into the idea section. So again, we've got lots of initial shapes. We've got variety of techniques, little sketches. We've got a variety of models, a variety of ideas. And she's also making reference now to her early work. So she's saying, look, this idea was inspired by my Angular and Brutalist research. This idea was inspired by Felix Nunsheim House. So again, she's drawing on those early works, those early forms, those early ideas to help us to start to bring in that research. And again, this will start to be documented in her personal study essay and how these architects and these forms and these designers have helped her move her project on. So she's got some variety of lovely ideas in here, variety of models, sketches, CAD, different ways of recording, elevations, developing ideas, developing models. She's got 2D, she's got 3D. Again, this project is packed full of lots and lots of different ways of recording, not only just through sketching, but also through modeling, as this is a 3D based course. And that further develops. And she's starting to get some sort of developed ideas now, starting to think, okay, well, let's start to develop these further. And then she's looking at some more CAD forms and some ideas and some shapes on how she can take those ideas forward. As you see, she's got a nice title there. And again, more sketches, more ideas, using some of the making links to these early models. Again, she's showing that she's reviewing her early work and then refining those ideas. And it's really important to make links to some of the earlier work in your project to say, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm bringing those forward. This is how I'm developing those ideas. And again, it's lovely the way she does that. She takes those ideas and then she develops them further. So at this point now, she's saying, right, I've got 4 really good developed ideas. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to evaluate those. So these are the ideas that she's got. And then she's decided to have 7 different ideas and she's evaluating these concepts. And that's really important to allow you to review and refine those ideas. So she's got design brief, personal study, specification. So she's got stuff like here, the idea, quiet and relaxing location, reflects nature, Does it fit my personal study research? Is it bold and creative? Is it capable of providing quiet communal spaces? Does it match nature? Can it be made from neutral recycled materials, etc., etc.? So this is where you're refining and reviewing your ideas to identify a final outcome. So now she's saying, right, I've reviewed these. This is the idea that I'm taking forward. So this is the one that she's taking forward, and she's using those shapes and ideas to start to come up with some initial. And again, making links to her research early on in the project is really important. Making those links to be able to identify your research and document how that research is further helping you refine your ideas. So again, she's got some initial models, some initial starting points here, and further adaptations and changes from her initial model, talking about how that can obviously be refined and developed further. So some lovely bits of combination of hand and laser cutting. She's then talked a bit about textures and representing how these textures are inspired by nature and how she might use these textures on her own work is really, really important. And then talking about materials, so she's got some CAD in here, representation of that. She's got sizes and how she might start to think about materials. And then she's got her final idea. This is what I'm going to develop. These are the things that I want to include on here, including some materials. Moving on to a very comprehensive diary of making to show obviously all of these techniques and processes that she's been using to represent the variety of ideas and variety of techniques that she's doing. There's a massive fold under here that obviously folds out as well. And then she's further showed that. And then finally moving on to the final presentation, a lovely CAD model to represent the idea here with her model showing her range of materials, her range of techniques as well. And then a final floor plan as well showing that. And then representation of the site and how the idea relates to that, showing final context as well in terms of how her model relates to her personal study. So what makes this a very strong project? There's a variety of things here. You've got lots of ideas. So if we track back, you can see throughout the journey, she's got lots and lots of ideas. And the more ideas you are able to document, the more marks you will get. She's also got lots of annotation and ways to review and refine those ideas. That's really important. You document that. Not only has she got a lot of ideas, she's also got lots of materials. She's got lots of processes. She's got lots of techniques. She's demonstrating our understanding of 3D design for a variety of materials, techniques, and processes. She's using CAD. She's using sketching. Not only is she using a variety of techniques and processes, but she's also demonstrating confidence in that. She's confident at refining those ideas and recording those ideas through sketching, CAD, and models. Her models are very confidently made. Her sketches in CAD is very confidently presented. And she's showing her ability and she's showing her skill set for the subject. And that's really important of how you get those marks in AO3. How good are you at the subject and how are you evidencing that through your materials and through your sketchbook? And then finally, AO4 is obviously presenting that response and showing how that response has been developed and inspired by her initial project. And if you go through this as a response, you will see many examples of where she draws on influences from her research and from her early ideas. And that is really important throughout the project. You were able to make connections between your work and the work of others and justify how that work has helped to develop and inspire and move your project forward. So this would sit in the confident bracket, and there I would say in elements there is a level of exceptional performance. So in my eyes, and this would be marked as an A star and would be in the bracket of between 79, 80 81, 82.